Good morning and welcome back to Metro Morning Live. I'm Jim Griffith with Griffith Financial Services, and this is our segment, You and Your Money. This morning we want to talk about a subject that's actually affecting millions of Americans, and it's been doing so for 30 years or more, and that is the problem with the 401k plan, the need for small businesses to actually have an effective 401k plan for their employees, as well as making the plans that are currently in place more robust so that American workers can have a meaningful retirement. In today's booming economy, the longest bull run in the history of Wall Street, there is a savings crisis in America. Everyone simply is not participating in the most massive economic expansion in the history of America. Recently, the Federal Reserve issued a report that said today, in this booming economy, over 1/2 of Americans can't come up with $400 to address an emergency. 45% of American workers have no retirement plan at all. Mostly, this exists among small businesses. The average American has about $5,000 in savings, and the average couple has, between the age of 50 and 60, has only $17,000 in savings. This, in my opinion, is an outright failure of the retirement system as it currently exists in America. Americans should be able to be sufficient, comfortable in their retirement, especially after working a lifetime. The National Institute of Retirement Security recently issued a report and conducted a survey, and they asked Americans how they actually feel about the current retirement planning process, as well as people who have retired. They wanted to know how they felt about the current process. And the answers that came back were absolutely staggering. Many people said they were anxious, nervous, confused. We got answers such as terrified and even depressed. In my opinion, the primary reason for this is that 401k plans have been an abject failure for the American people when it comes to planning for retirement. The 401k was never intended to be the primary retirement vehicle for Americans. It was intended to be a supplement to pension plans when employees retire. Because of the high fees and expenses in these plans, which can range up to as much as 2.75%, when you take that over a 30 or 40-year investment life cycle, those fees and expenses can be significant. They will completely erode the miracle of compound interest because of the tyranny of the compounding costs from the fees and expenses in these plans. When you take that, coupled with market volatility over 30 or 40 years, you, the individual, now have to sit in a room or you have a certain period of time to decide how you want to direct your monthly contributions in your self-directed retirement plan. And in most cases, many people simply do not know what to do. Most people don't know the difference in a stock and a bond. These 401k plans are heavily regulated by ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. That makes them expensive and difficult for small business to actually administer. In many cases, the expenses are so high and the participation rate is so low in 401k plans, small businesses that do institute a plan eventually have to get rid of the plan because it's not cost effective. There are also other factors affecting the ability for Americans to save for retirement, especially at a young age. And we discussed that last week, and that primary factor is student debt. When students graduate from college, that is the time that they need to start planning and getting a plan in place to have a meaningful retirement. Actually, if you can start before then, that's even better. So the student loan debt problem is compounding our situation. Business owners, especially small business owners that can't afford to deal with the ERISA-type plans, should take a look at alternative plans that will give their employees the ability to have protection, accumulation, as well as tax-free income for a lifetime. These non-ERISA plans are not regulated by, burdened by federal regulations. You can administer these plans very inexpensively. There's no 5,500 annual reporting to the federal government, and there's no need to stay on top of regulation so that your plan can stay in compliance. The protection plan gives you the ability to have accumulation, protection, and tax-free income in retirement. You also get the ability to access your money before 59 and a half with no 10% penalty and no taxation. And it also gives you something that a regular 401k plan can't, and that is accelerated benefits to address critical, chronic, and terminal illnesses, which may happen before retirement or during the period in which you're actually planning for retirement. Another great thing about the protection plan is that you can actually use less money to obtain your retirement goals because of the way that the plan operates. For business owners that have 401k plans in place, it's important to keep in mind that you need to add supplements to the current plans that you have in order to maintain and attract excellent talent. In these cases, a deferred compensation plan might be in order. For individuals that have high incomes, they can actually take money, put it into a deferred compensation plan, and defer taxation on income in a real-time basis and pull money from that plan when they're retired in an actual lower tax bracket. There's also the deferred compensation plan with an employer match. In that particular case, the employer is showing their valued employee that they want to compensate them for the hard work and the contributions they're making to keep the business successful. There are also key person coverage plans. Couple that with an executive bonus plan. Now you're showing your employee that you really, really appreciate what they do, as well as the value that they bring to the table. So at the end of the day, the protection plan is a plan that small employers, as well as larger employers, should look at because of the lack of federal regulation to administer the plan, the lack of cost, and as time goes on, the fees and expenses inside the plan can drop down to as little as 1%. In my personal opinion, and over the years, what we've experienced is nothing beats a protection plan when it comes to planning and providing for your employees comfortable retirement as well as your legacy. Stay with us. We have a bit more to cover on this subject. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
On the set, Jim Griffith of Griffith Financial Services. And Jim, with some great information a moment ago about the need for businesses to have a viable retirement plan. And Jim, what are the key factors in planning for a comfortable retirement?
Yeah, the key factors in planning for a comfortable retirement, one is to start saving as early as possible. When I was growing up, I grew up in a family business. My dad taught me to start saving like 25% of what I made, which I thought was a little difficult. But once you start doing it, you get used to that standard of living, that lifestyle. And if you keep that up over a period of time, it makes a really huge difference. The other thing you want to do is save as much money as you can. Many people, when they save for retirement, they're a little reluctant. They'll say, well, that's too much for me to save. Well, the thing that you want to do is you want to save the most and not the least. So go ahead and make it hurt a little bit. Do without that cup of coffee or that fried chicken sandwich raw.
Yeah.
And take that money and put that money aside. Right. And remember, the other thing to do is to get an annual checkup every year to make sure that you're on road, on your roadmap, and not deviating from where you want to be.
And how long has this country been in a retirement crisis?
Yeah, in my opinion, this country has been in a retirement crisis since the 80s, when companies moved from pension plans to 401k plans. 401k plans have only been around about 30 years, and so subsequently we're now beginning to see the impact of the system. The plans simply were not the proper design, if you will, to be used for retirement. The more assets that come under management, the more higher the fees and expenses are. So we want to have a model with lower fees and expenses, so when you need the money the most, you're paying the least and getting the most benefit.
Okay. Is this a bad problem?
It is a bad problem. It is a bad problem. These 401k plans started back in the 80s. A benefits consultant by the name of Ted Benner, who was actually on the air yesterday with CNN discussing the very thing that we're talking about now, the problem with the 401k plan. And one of the key things that he pointed out was the fees and expenses, as I mentioned. Also, the volatility in the market and how that affects, could really set you back, if you will, 2 or 3 years and put you behind on your schedule retirement plan. So the thing to keep in mind is to start early, save as much as you possibly can, stick to the plan, and try to keep saving that same amount of money, even though you get a pay raise over the years. Continue, if it's 10, 15, 20%, save that same amount, because once you get used to operating on that level, you really won't miss the money. And it's just like money being taken out of your check for 401k or medical insurance. That money is taken off the top and you don't even miss it. And let's do this. Let's take a look at this video clip we have, and it'll drive home just how important this issue is.
Many workers dream of retirement. They can travel whenever they want, buy a little house on the beach, or take a cooking class. But a new study from Bankrate says that when it comes to saving for retirement, Americans need to do better. Only 18% of people have boosted their retirement savings in the past year. Even worse, 17% are saving less. Most people, more than half of those surveyed, are saving the same as they did last year. But the past year has been a year of recovery. Economic growth is picking up, home prices are rising, and the stock market has jumped to record highs. Things aren't back to normal, but they are certainly improving. Bankrate says that of all age brackets, older Americans, 50 to 64, are most likely to be saving less. And that is in fact worrisome, because it's typically when a person is earning the most. The problem is many people just can't afford it. Many older workers were laid off or offered early retirement packages during the recession. Others saw the value of their biggest asset, their house, take a huge hit, and it hasn't fully bounced back yet. But Bankrate says that people are feeling better about the job market, so hopefully, as the economy heals, so will our ability to save. I'm Zain Asher in New York.
Wow, good information. Hope everybody can take heed to that.
I hope so. And one of the things I really want to point out is, we're in the longest economic expansion in the history of Wall Street, but we have so many people that aren't participating in this expansion. That 45% of the people I mentioned that work for small businesses that have no retirement plan, if you don't have some type of retirement vehicle, most people have no exposure or no experience in how to invest in the stock market. So there's a large swath of the population out there that simply are not participating. That's why we have a situation where people are working 2, 3, 4 2 and 3 jobs. I guess that 4th job cuts into the hour of sleep you might get. And the other thing is that it's so important to have a plan in place so that you can start early saving for retirement, because it's not just that individual, it's the business owner's legacy, it's the legacy of that employee. And when someone commits a lifetime of work for a particular company, at least they should deserve to be able to be comfortable in retirement.
All right, Jim, well, we're running out of time. I guess you can tell everybody where they can find you.
Absolutely. You can give us a call, Griffith Financial Services, at 800-361-6542. Or you can go to our website, griffithfinancialservices.com.
All right. Great information as always, Jim. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, Rob.
All
I'll
right.
be here.
We're back after this.